Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It is Thursday, September 11th, 2025, and the time is 12:04. This is the Council for Human Services. My name is Veronica Bolchick, the chair. And before we start our meeting, I would just like to do a moment of silence for, it is September 11th. And just for the individuals that were affected by the tragedy 23, 24 years, 24 years
24.
ago. 24. Thank you. It just is astounding that it's 24 years ago, and I'm realizing that we have Alexandra in the room here that I'm not sure how old you are, but you probably don't have the same memories. Yeah, a couple of months old. You don't have the same memories that the rest of us have of that tragic day. And I look up at the sky, it's not quite as crystal blue as it was that day, but
Very similar.
It's very
Yeah.
similar. It's almost spooky.
yeah, it still brings chills to my spine.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are the Council for Human Services, and the first thing I would like to do is establish quorum. This meeting is being held in a hybrid fashion, so all votes will be done by roll call. So first, I will go up to the screen. We have Sue Minthinen,
Present.
Suzanne Keating,
Present.
Tara Rastiri,
Here.
and I see Kelly Steppen has joined us.
Here.
In the trailer, we've got Deborah Gudemund,
Present.
Sarah Wright,
Present.
and myself, Veronica Bolchick, so we do have quorum. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is acceptance of the agenda. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
All right, so Sue first, and I've got Sarah as a second on that. So by roll call, Sue,
Aye.
Suzanne,
Aye.
Tara,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Deborah,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
myself. We've got an agenda. All right.
Veronica, attendance from me and Jericho.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you. I was going on to the next item, and we also have from town administration, we've got Jericho and Alexandra Richards.
Here.
Thank you for that reminder. I very much appreciate that. The next item is we have minutes from August 8th and August 21st. August 8th, I
There was
don't
no quorum.
believe we didn't have a quorum for this
We
group.
didn't.
So we don't necessarily, so do those,
The minutes just say there was no
Yeah.
quorum, so
Okay.
I could either maybe put a cancellation, but the minutes.
well, as long as it says
Yeah, it says.
there wasn't
they
a quorum or
attended and-
whatever,
yeah.
because I think it's just, there's closure to it then, so, thank you. So do I have approval of those minutes? A motion?
So
All right, I moved, so moved.
Okay, so Deborah and then second by Suzanne. So, roll call, Sue,
Since I was not present, do I abstain?
yes.
Abstain.
Alright. Suzanne,
Aye. Or present,
on the 21st and, well,
yeah, 21st.
yeah, I think at this point it's just for the 21st.
Yeah.
Oh, then I go back and say yes, because the 21st I was there.
Okay. And Suzanne, so that's a yes on you. Tara,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
all right, Deborah,
Aye. Aye.
Sarah, and myself. Thank you. Public comment, I don't see anyone up on the screen. We have no one in the trailer, so we will move on with that. And now we're on to the meat and potatoes here. Update on the funding request for fiscal year 27 from the town for the town of Town of Nantucket Human Services and Substance Misuse Grants. So as everyone remembers, over the past few months, we had a letter that had been adjusted and updated. And we also had a meeting on the 8th of August with Brian Turbot from Finance that gave us guidance, and the letter was after approval by this group and Council for Human the CRC was submitted to town administration, to Libby Gibson, and then to the select board. And we received back wonderful news from Libby Gibson that pending town meeting and approval, which it always is, we can go forth with 650,000 for the human services grants, and on the substance misuse grants, still will be a separate grant. And it was a little bit convoluted, but at how it got there, but we will have the 175 to go out and accept grant applications for. The money that we did give out last year, because we did not give out the full 175 because we did not have we didn't have the grants that were appropriate. So we were given that money, and then the balance to make it up to 175 will be cobbled together with opioid monies, etc. But the good news is we will be level funded for fiscal year 27, so that is 650 and 175. In addition, the letter had talked about developing a mechanism to have yearly increases on that. And that was embraced as a positive move. The next thing that I guess, Jericho, you can give some more clarity to this is, rather than doing the way that we've done it this year and in previous years, the request was that this becomes part of the human services budget. And there's a mechanism that Jericho can explain that he is in the process of doing.
So we're currently entering the budgeting process for next fiscal year, which means that we're setting the requests to be approved at town meeting this coming spring. And then we're also, I was asked to do what's called an expense increase request as part of our budgetary process, to request additional, to try and make a larger request for next year. So basically there's a mechanism now where we can request a given amount of funding per year in an explicit process. And that's been connected to a variety of different, several revision processes that the grant cycle has gone through: improved reporting structures, external evaluation by consultants, and then this year a needs assessment, which I have a couple of updates on that I'll share later on. But basically, we now have a mechanism to request an increase in funding through the select board and through the Healthy and Vibrant Community part of the strategic plan that the select board has going, so that we'll be able to request the year before a given funding amount, which we then will be able to use in the grant process the subsequent year when it becomes active. As always, none of this money is committed until the town meeting for the appropriate fiscal year, but it does mean that we can operate with an assumption of potentially increasing the total amount of funds. I believe we will always need to keep the cannabis grant or the substance misuse grant separate, because it's drawing from specific funding sources that are collected from impact fees, the opioid settlement monies that are trickling in, and then from recreational cannabis taxes, which have to be used specifically for this purpose. But we will be able to probably expand the human services grant funding next year, so that we'll be getting close to what we would have had to adjust for inflation since the last change in that funding amount, which I think was 2018. So that's good news. I need to reach out for some additional guidance because it doesn't fit into the existing budgetary process. Normally, my budgets are authorized under the town's general operating funds. This is a separate article, Article 9, so I'm not sure exactly what the paperwork is going to look like, but there's a clear path to making a request for next year. And we should have preliminary data back, at least the benchmarking and the secondary research with potentially some focus group and key stakeholder feedback when we go into deliberations, as well as when we are justifying the EIR for an increased request next year.
Right.
So that's the needs assessment. We'll have some data, probably not the statistical data from the surveys, but we'll have key stakeholders, we'll have benchmarking against other communities, and we'll have some focus group information.
Right. I just want to thank Jericho for riding along with this bumpy ride, because this is major, because we have gone into grant cycles with not really having a commitment on how much we have, and it has, and us not publicizing how much we have. And at least last year, it caused a little bit of a ruffle in the process, because we had two organizations basically putting a request in for like half the amount of money that we had. And, you know, as a review of that, you know, I just said, oh my gosh, what are they thinking? But the problem is that they had no idea, you know, and so the whole process is going along. Was limping for a while, and I think we're now in a good stride. So thank you for this portion, and I think that it will help overall the entire process.
That is great news.
Yeah.
Well done. Thank you.
And I think that we can assume that as years come, we will get that inflation factor minimally and get us up to speed, because we know that the needs are not going away. So thank you to the town administration, and, you know, once again, thank everyone in this room. But one thing that really has to be done clearly is thanking the town of Nantucket, the citizens, the voters, for supporting our efforts in providing services through not-for-profits for our entire community. Right. Very good. Any other comments on that? No. So on to the next item, which also has been in the making. And we are overview and approval of operational program and substance misuse grant request for proposals. As you see, it says operational. We had been using the term capacity.
Grants, yeah.
Capacity, and operational, I think, is a much better definition rather than capacity. So everyone should have gotten this in the when they got their agendas. And so we've got 3 different separate grants. Operational is the new category for this year. And there is going to be a applicant's information session. We were calling it the bidders information session, but we were requested to change it to applicant, because they really aren't bidders, although bidder information session is the coined term that would be used. But we'll call it applicants information session, and that's gonna be on Thursday morning, September 25th from 9 to probably 10, maybe I think we scheduled 9 to 11. And it'll be in this room, also on Zoom, and anyone interested in applying, has the ability to come and hear from us what the process is, what the new grant category is, breakdown of the dates, etc. And I encourage everyone in this group to minimally attend by Zoom. We, it typically is, we'll have some CRC members there. I'm not sure if we'll have a full quorum for that. But if we do have people who want to attend in person, we probably have to have that advertised.
We'll likely need to have it advertised either way, just in case we get a quorum.
Okay.
Technically, if you're involved in a meeting that falls under your jurisdiction and there's the potential for there to be
Right.
a number of quorum members, that would apply to Zoom groups too. So we'll just chuck it in as
That's
a
air
opposed
on the.
So post it as a meeting for both.
For
for
both.
CHS.
And
And
you
if we
can
get,
do the same agenda for both. Thank you, Lexi.
Could you repeat, did you name the date for that?
Thursday, September 25th, so it's 2 weeks from today, and it'll be 9 to 11 in the morning. And last year was the first time we did this, and I would say we probably had at least a dozen attendees, not all in person, but I think at least there was a dozen of our ultimate grant applicants who did attend
and that
and-
video got a fair amount of views
afterwards also. All right, and
Could
what-
a,
yes, I'm
Oh.
sorry.
sorry, as someone who's kind of intimately involved in the process, still am a little fuzzy on some of these categories, so I'm wondering if like an FAQ, a written FAQ will
Yeah.
be
Oh, yeah.
available for people too, because
So
Yes.
I've got what I'm preliminarily calling a cheat sheet, which details the differences between previous years, the categories of grants. It'll go a little bit into, which I think we're also gonna do later on, it'll go a little into the rubric and what the intent behind each rubric category is. And then it should have not a full flow chart, but it should tell people pretty easily what they should apply to and how things would be different.
Mhm.
Basically, there's a ton of ambiguity in this process and has been for a very long time. And I don't have a better term for this than there's some game theory type questions about bidding numbers and all that. And we're trying to make it as transparent a process. And that includes like, if you're X, then like some clear-cut eligibility guidelines, some clear-cut preference guidelines, and then the mechanism to determine what kind of bids is built into the rubric. So if you read the rubric and you're writing to the rubric, then you'll sort of know which category you fall into and where you might land.
If I can just jump in on that, the operational or capacity grant is the new grant for this year. And the distinction for that, in the rubric, there is one category that it has to do with amount of, basically operating budget for the year. And if an organization does not have, I believe it is at a $500,000, I can just,
Yeah, I think that
it's a $500,000, so if the organization does
Just
not
half?
have. If their operating budget is less than $500,000 a year, not appropriate for a operational or capacity grant. And the reason for the origin of us offering the capacity operational grant has to do where there's a number of organizations, a few organizations on the island that basically look toward the grant money that they get from the town to maintain and build capacity for their operations, not specifically for a program. The grant that we've been giving has really been a program grant, and we've asked people to describe the program, what it's for, what is the outcome, etc. Where we've pretty well, without offering this type of a grant, some organizations have sort of had to shoehorn what they are asking for into those little category boxes. And we knew that it was more for keeping the doors open, being able to increase what they do, as opposed to running a program that would be, Monday at 2 to 4 for a specific operation. So that is the reason for it. The other thing that overall that was discussed and is reflective in this, that one grant award would not be more than $100,000. So we would cap it at $100,000. We had lots of discussions with the CRC group on that, because we have had some organizations who have been awarded more than $100,000, but knowing that we're still dealing with the same 650,000, and to be able to not only offer the capacity or operational grants, but then also be able to support the seed money and the program money for the vast majority of other organizations. So those are the two major differences. We still will have that third category, we'll have a third category, which is the substance misuse. And because Jericho said before, the funding stream for that is different than the funding stream for the human services grants, that will remain separate. And it will basically be, the application is the program grant for that. So does that give a little more clarity?
Yeah, that helps, and that, yeah, hopefully there'll be that, like, I like the sound of Jericho's cheat sheet for the applicants, because
Yes. Yeah,
I think it's all going to be clear at the end of the day, but right now we're so used to chaos that the clarity seems confusing.
exactly. And that's why I think that the applicant information session is really helpful. And I know we had feedback last year that the attendees were thankful that, we were able to, in one spot, to give maybe more clarity. And as always, at that session or whenever this is released, that if people do have questions at any time, they get directed to Jericho's office, and he will. I'm managing your time now, but he would gladly sit and speak
Yeah.
with anybody.
So, I mean, in full disclosure, I've had 4 phone calls or conversations about potential grants this year. I've got 3 or 4 more scheduled for the next
Mhm.
week or 2, and then I'm probably gonna have some office hours kicking around somewhere. It's a busy season, but
Yeah.
it's the busy season. It's
Exactly.
grants and-
And so tomorrow, Suzanne, I see your hand before I go on.
I have a question before we get too much further along. I'm a little confused about the the grant. I've been sent a couple of things. The Human Services Operational Grant fiscal year 27 and fiscal year 27 substance misuse, and I can't find the program grant. But what I did find was we had previous ones and the dates are changed. We moved them up. And
Yes,
so we're just throwing out the old dates, but I really can't find a copy of Human Services program grant for fiscal year 27 in my notes. I don't know where it is.
I'll
I
send-
just noticed that too, Sue,
Right.
just, that's what I
So-
was looking at.
we were
Yeah.
mapping out the cycle, the last
Right.
previous C meeting, and it was realized that we basically had the RFPs in a finalized state. There isn't significant amount of approval that needs to go on from there. And that it would be a lot better if we started this process 2 weeks earlier, so our deliberations don't land on like Christmas Eve.
Right, so what
Okay.
happened is people received what would be a draft. And the dates on that, the release date says October 3rd, 2025. The actual release date is going to be this coming Monday with us voting on this and approving these drafts with correction to dates. The release date will be Monday, which I'm just looking to see what date is that?
The
So
15th.
September 15th.
The 15th? So the release date is September 15th and it stay open for 1 month with the application deadline is the 13th, did we make it? Well, that's
We made it October 15th
Yeah.
October 15th.
because it's the weekend prior, it's the weekend of Indigenous Peoples' Day.
It's a holiday, okay, so it goes from the 15th to the 15th. So,
And that lets us put the information session right smack in the middle there, so you can look at it and start working at it, and then be like, oh, I have some questions about this.
right.
And then come in and ask.
And what will happen is the review of the applications, we had a very, very healthy discussion at our CRC meeting last week because what happens, everything gets into crunch time and we realized that we've got a holiday schedule that sort of was in between all this. So by moving up the release by 2 weeks, had everything shift 2 weeks forward, so we will get the on the 15th at the end of the day, they get opened and the committee will then get, we're breaking it into 3 different review dates, so we'll be reviewing the substance misuse on one day, then doing the program grants and then the operational on the 3rd day. And then there will also be a date in that schedule for interviews. What we do in those first 3 dates, we'll be reviewing them and then coming up with additional questions. They're given to the organizations. They're invited to come in for an interview. We're not requiring interviews with everyone the same way we did last year because there's a handful of grants we get every year that I don't want to say they're insignificant, but they're smaller amounts. They're standard and we won't stop anyone from coming, and by not coming does not have a bearing on getting a grant, but we didn't think it was necessary to have everyone come in. But they'll be given questions in advance, and then we have an interview date, and then we have 2 deliberation dates on the calendar, and that is all gonna be done by the beginning of December, and then Jericho and I get to work on that, and we will have the actual report ready before Christmas. And the town has asked us to have it done by December 31st. So by moving this up by 2 weeks, we've got that schedule going.
And then this, I think, is where the study groups come in. But
Mhm.
once we get the applications in, I'll collate them into a packet
Mhm.
for each grant category with the sector, I think we
Mhm.
landed on for the term, broken down, and then generating the questions to provide for the interviews or ask for additional clarification on grant requests is the thing that those study groups would do, where the CHS members work in concert with the CRC members. So
Mhm.
that's basically the mechanism on that, plus that lets many eyes make easy questions, I guess. I'm mangling an aphorism, but
Mhm.
What I.
So I just have one more, I went back into the emails that were sent and And I see that the last time we got 2 copies of the operational grant request for 2027 and one of the substance misuse, but not a program one.
It's, that attachment says program, but when you open it, it's called program. So that's, thank
Okay.
you. We're on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay,
Got
okay.
that too.
So the
Okay.
one thing, there's one difference between the operational and there's technically 2 differences between the operational and the programming grant applications.
Mhm.
And it's one question in the narrative section and one evaluative criteria that only applies to the operational grant. When we do a brief review of the rubric, which
Right.
we are planning
which
on
we
doing
could,
today.
yeah, we can do that at this point. And before we get to that, I just want to thank Sarah for doing yeoman's work in digging into that. And I had pulled up a document also, and Jericho took it and assimilated, and I think I was really happy to see the results. So if we want to look at the comparative criteria at this point.
So if you do not have one in front of you, I will share screen just so we all have something
Yep.
to look at. There we go.
So if, what I'm looking at is the operational grant one.
Right.
Yeah, and I think we should look at the operational grant one as that's got everything in
Right.
it. Do I have
Right.
the ops here? Yeah,
So,
ops.
some of the categories have been, eliminated, changed, renamed, and also a, description of what, the criteria, what we're looking at. So the first one is focus. And, I don't remember what we called that before, but,
It was 2 or 3 different, it was a couple of different measures from different.
right. Sarah, would you want to just give like a brief overview, because you did the deep dive into this, and,
Yeah.
then we went from that into this.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a good question. I should have had the old
I think
categories, but essentially what Veronica just said, we sort of collapsed. We had probably about a dozen criteria, so now we have, I think, 6. So we folded things into broader categories. And I just don't have the names. I don't have the old thing in front of me, so. But really, I had said to, I think, Jericho and Veronica, I really did read a great book. Recently, it's a very short book, and I will bring it and share it if anyone wants it. It's called You Have a Hammer, and the reference is to, not dating myself, but the reference is to, the Peter Yura song, the If I Had a Hammer.
Yep.
So it's written by a woman who, Barbara Flourish, I think is her name. She's done all sorts of, consulting in different capacities around grant writing. And as a result of reading that book a couple weekends ago, knowing that we were going through this process, it became pretty clear to me that we didn't need a dozen categories and what some of the standard ones are called these days. And so here we are.
Mhm. So we have focus, which is the proposal should be well organized and easily understood. It should clearly present verifiable data, describe the services offered, define milestones where appropriate, identify the target population, describe the means and methods of delivery, justify their target populations, justify the pricing element of the proposal, with a fee for service or hourly rate. And it should include a description of the proposer's history of success and lesson learned from experience. That is a lot. Yes,
So this was a combination of 2 rubric points. One was completeness of description and one was like suitability for delivering services, I think.
right.
The intent of this question is how easy, readable, and concise is the application, and how quickly and effectively can I verify any information contained within it? It's written in this should thing because that's the voice you're supposed to use for writing these kind of like bid documents or grant request documents. Because that's the ideal that you're shooting for. And then the evaluative criteria has the same HA through U, where U is unacceptable and can rule out an application. Then there's these graded, I think, reasonably objective. Oh, Tara, do we lose Tara? Over phone trying to get back in. Ah, there we go. Tara, I think we lost you on the PC. Regardless. So then these are the evaluative criteria. You should be able to read it and relatively quickly come to a conclusion as to like this point, and this point are met. So therefore it's an A or an NA or an HA.
Mhm. Okay, she's back.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I'm back. My Wi-Fi is a little unstable for some reason.
Okay. All right, so the next one is impact, and that the proposal should state clearly what the desired outcomes are for the proposed services and show how those outcomes will be achieved and substantiated that they will be achieved. The proposal includes methods for collecting data and to support desired outcomes. So I think that here, once again, it's pulling together what we've been asking, but it's a much more concise definition. And it really is, we're looking at what impact and then how is it going to be substantiated? So looking at whether it is pre and post testing or collection of data, et cetera, that they've got that mechanism there. So it's under impact.
And this is, if I may, this is also part of an attempt for us to have every single program or organization we do some sort of data collection as part of what it's doing. Even if it's as simple as a survey or some demographic information collection, then this is sort of, do you describe collecting data, then you automatically get at least an NA or an A in this category. If you're doing survey-based assessment, if you're doing those Likert scale responses to pre and post, then you're automatically getting an A. Obviously, ideally, I would love, because our grant reporting process is a way for the Health and Human Services Department to be collecting actionable data elsewhere. So any way we can build data collection into anything we do, it only makes it easier for us to then take this data, set it into a statistical framework, and then use that to justify additional grant or funding requests elsewhere.
Next category is partnership. We had been calling it collaboration, and I really do like partnership much better. It's interesting, when we first added collaboration in, there was a whole lot of chatter of like, you can't make people collaborate. Well, you know what? It's a common thing and, you know, everyone's partnering with someone. So partnership, I think, is a much better word. So the proposal should include partnerships, formal or otherwise, with other mission appropriate organizations. These can include referral arrangements, service provision, outreach, or other functions. So, you know, it could be a memorandum of understanding or many different things, but to have collaboration and partnership. So next is innovation. Proposal should describe describe new, innovative, and more efficient methods of delivering services or meeting community needs. Innovative approaches can include new technologies, methodologies, outreach approaches, communication methods, or similar. So innovation, and I think
This one, it might be worth briefly going into the rubric evaluation, like what
Okay.
these mean. So basically, the idea is that you should be trying to innovate. So if somebody has like a brand new, never been tried here program, or if someone is bringing a new technology to an existing program, then that's an HA, because we would like to incentivize better, more efficient ways of doing things whenever possible. But also we want to make sure that if it is tried and true and effective, we're not we don't want to bias against effective ones. So it could just be if you're adapting or evaluating, or you're doing new outreach methods or any of those other kind of innovative ways to get your program in front of people, then that also is what this is about. So it's not necessarily completely new methods, but it is designed to incentivize a evolution of programming over time, or evolution of organizations over time.
And I would just add too that, I think this, item encourages this council and the CRC to think about taking calculated risks ourselves, right? So when I think about, when I look at this list here and just think about In the Herd, I think In the Herd is a good example of a relatively new organization that did something very innovative that no one else was doing. And so you could say that was really risky to fund them because they were a totally new organization, but I think they've been successful. And anyone can be innovative. You can be very well established and do something new. And just as Jericho said, we should be thinking outside the box all the time, basically.
Well said, well said. The next category, I got very excited when I saw cultural relevance, because we have danced around in so many different ways of saying, are we meeting the needs of the entire community? And it's not just with offering programs in different languages or information in languages, but really being aware that there are many different ways to achieve the same thing. So cultural relevance is extremely important. So the proposal should address linguistic or cultural difficulties that may arise during programming or operations, or how they will be managed or outcome.
Oh, okay. How
Yeah,
they
that's-
will
yeah.
be managed or overcome.
Overcome, okay, I'm sorry.
No, I thought I typoed.
No, that's my brain is typo. Okay, managed or overcome. So that is, I think it really says it succinctly. And then we go into financial, which, is something we've been looking at all along. And then the last is scale, and this is for the capacity grant only.
So that's, sorry, excuse me.
Should be
that's
operational.
Okay.
Yeah.
It should say operational.
That's why draft is in there.
Yep,
So this is the only thing that does not exist on the programming grant. The programming grant is all of these, the same narrative questions with a couple of wording tweaks from the previous year. This only applies to people who are going for the organizational or operational grant. And that is designed so that if you are at all confused about what grant you're trying to apply for, and you have a program you did last year, you can do the programming grant and everything is the same as it would be otherwise, barring the new evaluative scale. Scale is designed to incentivize these operational grants going to the types of organizations that we had noted would benefit from them most. Rather than having to tie their operations to a particular program when it's general support that they need, the scale category is designed so that we know that it is going to larger scale organizations that could be more innovative or nimble with program level funding. This lets us backstop their operations so that they're not constantly scrambling to meet daily needs. And this is where this is the only hard limit we have in this grant process, and it is the annual budget of the organization. Because it's an eligibility question, it must have a objective and external metric to tie it to. It has to be, for best practices and for consistency, there needs to be an explicit limit. Organizations that are much smaller than this tend to be operating purely with volunteers or with a heavily volunteer component to their workforce. They tend to be able to run program focused grant requests and reporting. This just allows, what we know has been common practice in previous years to be explicitly included into the evaluation rubric. That's my spiel.
And then beyond the evaluative criteria, if you go to pages 9, 10, and 11. This is really the
Madam Chair?
meat.
Sue, you had a
Oh,
potential pre-question unmute, or am I imagining?
I think you're imagining.
Okay,
okay,
it is a thing I do a lot, so.
okay. Thank you. So if you go to page 10 and 11, this is really the meat of the grant application. So the first is really just the cover sheet. But then on 11 is where the questions and the charts that we have here. This is something that we developed last year and we found it very effective. If people are filling out the application as completely as they should be, this really gave us a good way to zero in on the numbers. So we have I'm just looking at the dates to make sure that they're in alignment. So it is grants received for fiscal year 26. So they know what they've received for this current year plus the previous 2 years. So we have that. And then the questions, that this is really what the grant application, the meat and potatoes.
And these are slightly different
Mhm.
from the programming and substance misuse grant, specifically these two. So at this question as well, and then this one as well. Since the programming grant asks questions about specific programs, we allow non-human service organizations to apply for human service programs. For example, Artists Association, their mission is not behavioral health or any other of those things, but they do human service delivery through the wellness of the arts. So that's a program grant. For operational grants, we want the grant request to be on mission. So what is the mission statement of the organization? How does this money support that mission? We want these expenses to be direct and on mission. And then what challenges will this allow you to overcome? What does this structure of grant allow you to do that you wouldn't be able to do without it? And then to make sure that we are keeping this directly on mission, what human services needs, what existing community needs identified in the level 1, level 2 document, what new human service needs are identified in the upcoming needs assessment, and whatever framework we set that into. How will we be assisting those needs? How will we be fixing or meeting those needs by delivering this money? And then finally, this is the stopgap, because we have broken these up into the same categories to align with the community fund, just so that we can apples to apples our spending in these particular areas. You self-select. I think that's the only honest way to do it. And then we want them to have specific goals or objectives that this allows. So if we provide this grant to allow them to do operating expenses, what other things are they going to be able to do? How will we be able to tell if this money is effectively spent? Did it let you do this thing that you said here, more or less?
Okay. Jericho, I'm just jumping ahead and I'm looking at the substance misuse grant, because I think that number 5 on the operational, which select the category with best represents your organization or mission, and we've got those in. We don't have that question.
That's because we can only use substance misuse money for substance misuse issues, and that's a separate category, I think.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
But on the program grant, we should have that question.
I believe it should be in there. I'll double check right now.
Okay.
But yeah, that was the intent. Like everything that applies for substance misuse is in that one category.
Okay. But as long as we've got that question in the program, that would be very important because last year after the fact, we basically, Jericho and I went through and determined what category. So I would rather have people determine.
With an eye towards in future years, giving some spending parameters or some budget parameters around particular topics. Like if we have discovered that there's a particularly acute need in one of those sectors, we may allocate a greater amount of money for that category in a given calendar year.
Okay. Comments, questions?
It was a lot.
No. Yeah. But, extremely important that we got to this point and, I appreciate everyone's comments and, questions and work in getting this to this point. So with corrections to be made as noted, can we have a motion to accept the 3 different requests for proposals? So it would be request for operational program and the substance misuse. So if I can have a motion,
So moved.
all right, and second,
Second.
okay. So with this vote, we basically are
Well,
approving with corrections made.
We do need to have the vote, though.
Pardon me?
We do need to have the vote. That was just the motion and second.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
yes.
yes, but I'm saying with the corrections made.
And I will distribute the final copies immediately after the edits are included.
Okay, thank you. So, with a vote to approve with corrections made, Sue Mintonen,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Suzanne,
Aye.
Tara,
Aye.
Deborah? Aye. Sarah?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Thank you. All right, so that's. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's again, yeoman's work, so thank you. Can I have one of the red, thank you.
I have to say one more
Present.
thing. Just one point of clarification, and then I do have a quick question. Suzanne, I think you caught the same thing, and not to belabor this, but I think if you really looked closely, I don't know who printed what things out. I think we got all the right things. I think we got 2 things that both had a cover sheet that said operational grants.
Okay.
That's
I-
all it is.
I discovered that, and the one I
Yeah,
was
that's
just
all
looking
it is.
at was the program one, so I crossed out operational and put.
Right.
program.
Right, so.
So
Yeah,
it's just
I
the
know,
cover sheet.
yeah.
Just the cover sheet, yeah, so we have
Yeah.
everything, we got 2 covers. Anyway.
Okay,
And then my question is, is there any concern that with any of these changes? That any of the applicants are gonna find them so different or large scale or something, like, I don't know how long,
So
I don't know, and if so, how would we prepare for that?
So
Yeah.
my read on that, and I would love to hear from people who are more actively in the nonprofit, like directly doing service delivery or directly working for nonprofits. To me, the rubric component of this wasn't used until last year, so the rubric thing is not, it is what it is in terms of change, and I think people have gotten up to that, and education at the information session will address that.
Right.
Mhm.
The other changes, I tried to build this in such a way is that if you're flustered, if you don't know what to do, you can do what you have done previously for the program grant. And you will be, it's a minimum change so that if you're overwhelmed and you just need to get your grant request in and you don't have time to follow all of the niceties of operational grant versus program grant. Submit largely the same grant application that you would have on any other year under the programming thing. The total maximum award is the same. All the reporting structure is the same. It's slightly different questions, and you have to justify your expenses via the program as you had previously. If you are if you're looking at the operational grant, then there's a couple of extra questions, and I can work with people on that. But
Okay.
I have firsthand seen how, to me, relatively small alterations in process can have massive snowball effects.
Mhm.
The easy answer to anyone who is like, oh my God, what's going on with this? Is like, apply for the programming grant in the same way that you would have been in any other year, and it's largely the same process.
Great.
Sorry.
And in reality, there are only a small handful of organizations that would be appropriate for the operational grants, so they can be brought along or with questions.
And I can do a Zoom office hours for operational grant questions and publicize that around.
Yeah.
I currently have a list of all of the people who have applied, all of the organizations who have applied in previous years, as well as some new applicants who requested more information after the youth behavioral health grant, the opioid grant, and then some independent grant activities I was doing over last winter. So hopefully, we should be able to get the word out really effectively when the grant goes live. And then also I can use that information to communicate out opportunities for like office hours and so on. So
Right.
I intend to be available for any questions on this. This is a significant portion of my annual workload, and I would very much like for it to go smoothly. So that's the idea.
Yeah, I think to me, these changes are minor. There's nothing major here, but I'm sitting in this chair. But I guess my point is that I think a lot of the would-be applicants and historical applicants, all these human service organizations are contending with a lot of uncertain, like an enormous amount of uncertainty about funding that they've always relied on. So I just feel like it's messaging and will be reassuring.
And honestly, just to dovetail on that, we recognize that any change is difficult for many reasons, but we pressed to get this into action now because of our cycle. If we hadn't done this, we would not be doing this until fiscal year 28. And so we did not want to delay. But people get anxious with any kind of change. So the information sessions, messaging, and also what this is jumping on another subject, want to thank the town, their information people. We hopefully will get a nice write-up on this that'll be on Instagram and through their messaging, because they did a wonderful announcement for the event that we're doing tomorrow. And I think just more information out there is just better.
Right.
So
So
that
there are
relieves things.
improvements.
There are improvements, and we had some people who were adamant that we couldn't make change this quickly, and you know, sometimes you have to be able to grow and change and make those things, and even if it's a little bit painful, but we're hopefully gonna be offering enough information for this to go smoothly.
No, that's been a concern of mine. That has been concerns that have popped up pretty regularly inside CRC from human service providers around. It is, I think that the nonprofits on the island are fully capable of managing this, and this is us moving in a direction that we've worked on with them for a while. And it really is just, if we can effectively communicate that, I think it should be relatively easy. But I don't know, Sue or anyone else, like, does this, with your nonprofit hat on, does this sound alarming?
No, I don't think it sounds alarming.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like, I mean, again, it's hard for me because I'm wearing all the hats at the same time, but
Yeah,
I feel like this is starting to make more sense as an applicant, even though there are gonna be some people maybe that are stuck in like, but this isn't how it used to be. Like, we know we don't like change on Nantucket, but this is more in line with how other grants go, so
right.
it should feel comfortable.
And I saw Kelly, you were shaking your head that no, it's not, you know, gonna be confusing, whatever. So thank you.
Yeah, well, I was
Uh,
just thinking like maybe that I notice a lot in the conversations we have, like working with technology and updating technology. It's like just emphasizing, and also like benchmarks and goals. It's like emphasizing why it's important.
Yep.
And without that, it does just feel like, oh, they're changing stuff and making us do more work. But if you emphasize like the systemic reasons of needing to understand all this, sometimes it creates a little more buy-in.
I mean,
And actually, Kelly, to dovetail on that is next year, and Jericho, that there is a procurement system that the town uses, that we are supposed to be using their platform. And so
That's
to
a-
introduce that and these changes at once, I think we would have people's heads exploding. So.
yeah.
Agreed.
You know,
That's, and Suzanne, that's the platform we were using when we evaluated the needs assessments.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
had, yeah.
I just wanted to say, because I wasn't on the CRC last year or anything like that, but those rubrics really spell out pretty clearly, you know, what people are going to see what we're looking for. And
Right.
I think it's pretty, you know, it almost answers questions that people might have. And if they have a question, they can get a hold of you.
Yep. Yeah, and actually, Tara, I'm looking at you up on the screen there because I think that you and I began this. Long and winding road probably 3 years ago,
Yeah,
maybe
I think it was 3 years.
3 years ago, so we've come a long way.
We
We've
we
come-
have, we have.
So, you know what, it's only to try to make things, easier. It may not be interpreted that way, but it's easier all the way around.
When, and if we want an answer for why we're doing these changes, it's because if we do these changes, we should be able to get more funding because we're better able to track it, better able to match it to effort, to outcomes, and better able to defend its allocation. That's
Right.
fundamentally what all of this has been for,
Right.
is because we are.
And honestly, that is the marching orders that we have received from the select board, from town administration, from finance, you know, data driven, not emotional, but, you know, reviewing, you're making decisions with information. So, we've come a long way. We're making strides in making improvements to the entire process. We can go on to the next item, which is the assignment of study groups. And for the folks up on the screen, can we screen share this or because,
Email, yeah.
I had sent
Did you
this
send
to, I
the-
sent it to you and Lexi yesterday or Tuesday, I guess this was. And,
I got it.
I sat down with everyone's requests and, couple of reasons to keep the study groups in two, we don't violate open public meeting. So, I was able to go through everyone's requests. And you did receive 2 of your 3 requests, I believe, in how we, work this out. And I also said that if anyone wants to do swapping or whatever, we certainly can do that before this becomes official. And this will be then in our minutes, etc. So
I'll have it up on the screen in just 1 second. Come on. just 1 second, is based on the whims of this machine. Okay, here we go.
All right. So I'll start reading just before it's up there. So under shelter and food, I've got Kelly and Deborah. Children and youth is Suzanne and Tara. Elder care is Amanda and Sarah. Behavioral health, Sue M. and Suzanne. Substance misuse is Amanda and Deborah. Healthcare, Tara and Sarah, and emergency, Sue and Kelly. I did not put myself in that mix because it threw the numbers off. And also, I will be a resource and I will work along with you, but also did not want to violate the open public meeting, so you can meet, you can work, you can do things without that being an issue. So, any comments or questions, or anyone want to move into a different category? But I was able to sit and I made sure that I was answering 2 of the 3 that you had put in. I believe.
Little Rubik's Cube.
Yes, it was. All right.
So
All right,
we're each on 2 groups.
yes,
Okay, great.
yes,
Thank you.
yes.
And so the workload on this is gonna depend on the incoming applications and what categories they fall into.
Mhm.
But the general sort of assignment for this is to become familiar with these proposals and then generate some questions that we can provide to the applicants ahead of any
Right.
interview they may or may not have.
Mhm.
We're really trying to move towards written questions in advance so that we can get concrete answers. And then, of course, anyone who we don't do an interview with, if we still have a question for, we send
We
them the
still get it,
question and we
yes.
get a written answer back.
Yes. All right. All right, with no additional questions or comments on that, thank you. And we go on to a needs assessment update, which Jericho?
Sure, I will very quickly run through, we have had I've had 3 meetings with the consultants, and we have established a timeline and a general approach to it. We're going to do primary data collection, that is the survey distribution and collection in 2 waves. There'll be a year-round resident survey, which is gonna be open from a couple weeks from now until May or April or May. So it'll be collecting data from year-round, self-identified year-round residents for that entire duration. Then there will be a seasonal worker and seasonal resident survey instrument that's gonna go out. We're doing what has been called the 2-step, which is we're gonna do a round of data collection as soon as we can to capture people departing this season, and then we're going to do another round in the spring to see arriving, and then I'm gonna, out of my own curiosity, I'm gonna see if we can get how similar those 2 populations are, if we're having people come back for work or come back again the same year. And then also it'll get 2 different, it'll make sure we're not missing anybody in the equation, and that we'll have 2 different time signals to see if the needs are substantially different in the fall and in the spring, which has been something that I'm curious about. The steering committee has been assembled and contacted. We should be having the first steering committee meeting. I think it's next week. I have the address invites have been sent out. A couple members of this body are involved in the process. We've got representatives from a variety of different human service related agencies. The initial kickoff meeting with the steering committee is largely to determine what key stakeholders I've missed and who needs to be contacted for the first round of focus group or detailed individual interviews. If anyone was around for the previous assessment, Raf Tellis would contact and set up communication, and then there would be a guided interview where the data could be collected and synthesized into the report. We're also hoping to have the first round of on-island needs assessment data collection in October, where one of the contractors is going to come down. I'm going to try and connect him to to faith organizations, to a variety of different, the not the usual suspects. The gentleman is a native Spanish speaker, and is going to be kind of like, what's the term? Burning some shoe leather, with some on the ground attempts to contact and communicate with people. The idea is to have him here a couple of times. Previous efforts by this organization elsewhere show that if he's coming multiple times, the unofficial communication networks for people on the island will be familiar with him. He'll be able to do some network building the first time he comes. And so when we're doing the second step of the two-step, he'll already have some built-in and established trust and faith with communities on Nantucket. Past that, the timeline supports us having both this body and the contract review committee of having the key, a synthesis of the key stakeholder interviews and some of the initial focus group meetings available ahead of deliberations for contract review committee and around when I'm doing my, my final defense of my request for potentially next year's funding. We won't have the full statistical instrument out and back, but we will have some key stakeholders. We'll have the secondary research comparing us to other communities and comparing us to kind of equivalent needs in other communities and what they spend. And then from there, we'll be able to get more data than we've had for a deliberation since 2006.
So just to clarify, are you saying that we will have preliminary data by November 14th?
Yeah. It will be the qualitative
Right.
data. It won't even be the survey, the kind of the objectified subjective data of what's it called, survey answers. But we will have directly collected data from Nantucket informing us of needs in a systemic fashion that's synthesized into a preliminary report.
Okay.
And then the full on, statistically significant sample of a statistically significant number of populations on Nantucket, we should have ahead of starting the process next year if we keep to a similar timeline as we had this year.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you all that have been involved in this to date. It's fabulous.
Can I ask a quick question, Tara? So you said there are two different versions of the needs assessment. One is for year-round residents and another one is seasonal workers and seasonal residents.
So there's
So it's not three separate.
no. So there's two interviews. It's a self-selecting process.
Right.
We're specifically looking to collect data from demographics that don't usually participate in needs assessments, because I think that's where our greatest need is.
Mhm.
So we're trying to figure out a way to get the seasonal and the year-round distinction was brought in by the consultants. That's something
Mhm.
they've utilized elsewhere, and I think is, for them at least, standard practice.
Mhm.
And then the idea for me is I thought the timeline was gonna be a little too, like, we weren't gonna the potential was we weren't gonna capture enough of that seasonal populations and their needs. And so doing it in two chunks the way that we did, that ultimately it may delay the initial results, but it should give us broader and more useful data, as well as giving us two different time series points, because I think when it comes to needs, we deeply underestimate the seasonality. I mean, not us here. I think we're all aware that it's a very different place in the summer and the winter. But I think in terms of data collection, almost all of the other needs assessments are done at a single point in time and only capture the sentiment
Right.
and information that's happening then. Since we have the luxury of a year-long contract on this, I figured do 2 points of data collection. We can strike those out so that we can compare how people feel in fall and how people feel in spring, and then we'll have more data total to collect.
Right. So the seasonal workers, though, are those those are people who live here
Mhm.
during this, they're not commuting workers.
No. Although that is a potential need, we're bringing as broad a basin as possible.
Self-identify.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
but it's two different versions.
Yes.
Of one needs, okay, got it.
And then we should have the sample survey instruments pretty soon to share around. And then part of the steering committee is, there's some additional space in the survey if we have specific questions we are looking to get answers from the
Mhm.
community on. And that's part of what the steering committee is there for, is if I have missed, if there's any community specific data points that we're trying to collect through the survey.
Perfect, thank you.
Very good. Jericho, can we go on to your report?
That stuff I just said. Yeah, other than that, we're just general health and human service information right now. We're gearing up for vaccine clinics. It is going to be a kooky year. I currently do not know what local status on COVID vaccine is gonna be, but we've discussed with the hospital a couple of times. There'll be a few flu vaccination clinics happening towards the end of September and into October. Then I believe there will also be some flu vaccine availability through primary care. And then other than that, a lot of environmental health stuff going on that's not super relevant to here. And just sort of supporting the needs assessment, the grant process, and then some interesting stuff happening when it comes to venison donation and how that impacts tick-borne illness.
Okay. And I know that last month, I think I asked Sarah, does the hospital have any plans for COVID and flu? And it's pretty well the same thing. I assume
Right.
everything is on hold or just waiting.
I can say that we are gonna have a flu clinic at our health fair, which is October 4th.
Okay.
So October 4th is the hospital's annual health fair, and we will have a
Who
flu
will be
clinic.
there?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Do
I'll have
people
to
need
get
to
back.
sign, do people have to sign up for that, or is it
I
just a
don't think
walk-in?
so. I don't think you have to sign up. No.
Okay, and Jericho, the town is also gonna do a flu?
So, to my knowledge, we're going to have one at the senior expo a couple weeks after. All of this is contingent on ordering flu vaccine, which we get state issued flu vaccine
Right.
and state issued COVID vaccine. This year, the circumstances have changed so that we're needing to do private ordering and then establish a reimbursement structure for any vaccine that we administer. So we have at least flu clinics set up,
Okay.
or in the final stages of being set up. The current plan is, I think, 2 weeks after was it October 4th?
Right.
And then I think the Senior Health Expo is the 12th, although it's escaping my mind right now. And then we have hopefully a combined flu COVID clinic once the ordering process for COVID gets set up, scheduled towards the end of October right now. But there are too many moving parts for us to,
Same.
Yeah,
it's really what it comes down to.
yeah.
The Elder Expo is October 18th.
18th, thank you.
18th is elder.
That will have flu at least. If we can find COVID, we will. There is a lot of chaos, at least on the public health side for COVID vaccines, because the normal approval process of the past, since it was developed, is no longer in place. And so we're, as of Tuesday, waiting for updated guidance from the state. There is already a legal mechanism to provide doctor's orders for these for the state for public administration. But because of the way that insurance is interacting with COVID, we don't know if we're going to be able to do non-state vaccine for that. And basically, the people who are covered under that, we looked at our population from last year that we vaccinated, and 20 out of 1,000 people were covered by the state vaccine. Everybody else would, under the current regime, be private pay, which means we need to buy a boatload of vaccine. We then need to establish an insurance billing process for that. And then between 6 months and a year later, we get reimbursed for it. So that part of it is more complicated than it was in previous years. And that's what a lot of the confusion for COVID vaccines this year is.
Yeah, I understand. I just remember back with COVID clinics, and we were asking for some insurance information or whatever, and that just was a nightmare. So it's, and at that point, it was pretty well covered by the powers that be.
Well, then we had large amounts of state
Yes,
vaccine that was issued without needing to.
right, right.
So it's a
It's
very,
complicated.
yeah.
It's very complicated, but people keep asking and they're asking for flu and for COVID. So at least flu,
My-
season is coming up, so.
my complete and totally transparent guidance to people is that if you can get if you are off island, if you are near a pharmacy chain, get your vaccine as quick, with the bird in hand. Do
Yeah.
not count on there being wide availability of COVID or flu vaccine on Nantucket this fall. We're going to try really hard. But it is a remarkably different environment out here and everywhere when it comes to vaccines this year. And if you have the opportunity to get a vaccine off island or anywhere else, do so as quickly and as efficiently as you can.
And honestly, that's the same message I got from my primary care here on the
Mhm.
island, that if you can, do it because there's so much unknown.
And it is going to be a rough respiratory virus season. There's already pretty significant indicators that it's going to be around where last year was for flu. And that we're tracking the wastewater, which is nothing alarming now, but if you're looking at last year's wastewater numbers with an unvaccinated population, there's gonna be a lot of sick people this year.
All righty, thank you. Thank you for important updates.
That ray of sunshine.
Ray of sunshine. Well, yeah, I see there is the light there, that there are gonna be hopefully some clinics going on. All right, on to the next community, human services items for discussion. Anything anyone wants to share?
Oh, I do have one thing. I wanna let folks here know, on Tuesday afternoon. Actually Tuesday at noon, I think a lot of people here are part of the Healthy Community Collaborative. The luncheon that the Community Foundation, runs 10 months out of the year, so it's starting up again. And the speakers, at noon, that will be virtual and in person. The speakers are coming from the Massachusetts Health Connector. They have, those same two speakers have agreed to come and kind of do an encore performance at the hospital at 2:30, the same day, Tuesday, the 16th. So if you can't make it at noon, or you just, could only make it hybrid, but you want to hear them in person, you can definitely come to the hospital at 2:30. And they're really just going to be talking about the major changes as a result of HR1, or the One Big Beautiful Bill. And we invited them because open enrollment starts November 1st for the Health Connector. The Medicare open enrollment for Part D starts mid-October, early October. So in any case, they're going to give a high-level view. I've already been to one of their webinars. They're great. So that will be in Watkins, I think A and B, Tuesday at 2:30, if you're not already going at noon.
Okay. Important information, thank you. Thank you.
Wait,
I'll,
where did you say it is at noon?
It's at the Community Foundation, Suzanne. But they have, kind of limited space, like their
Oh.
meeting room is about the same size as here, and so they can't have like 30 or 40 people in this small area.
Okay,
You can just reach out to Tandy and she'll send you.
I was
the
just
link.
curious. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
And the 2:30 will not be virtual, that'll only be in
it'll
person.
only be in it will only be in person. We are gonna record it though.
Okay,
Yeah.
and we would be free to go,
It's free to go. Actually, no, you know what? I think we will make it a Teams thing, because we've talked to the chamber and we're inviting like some other people that we think might be interested, so I will make it hybrid.
okay.
If you want, you can send
You'll have
us,
to RSVP, yeah.
send us a link for
I
that,
will.
and then we can distribute it out.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right. On to
I
the
have,
next. Yep,
if I
I'm
can
sorry.
throw out an update or a reminder, it's early now, but the warming place will be opening on November 1st. We're on schedule for that. We have our host churches in full agreement, so as it gets colder, think about if you have any place to refer people or anyone you need to refer them to the warming place.
Same churches, same schedule as last year.
Slight adjustment, but we'll have materials coming out.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Do you anticipate, higher, a higher census? And I know, Or-
It's so hard to tell. We did not last summer, we had we had a summer long program and we reached a lot of new people during that. I don't think we reached we didn't get the same influx of new people over this summer. So hard to say.
okay. All right. But thank you for that information. With nothing else, we'll go on to, tomorrow's grant award ceremony from at 10 o'clock and the Harbor Room, I guess it is.
Harbor View,
Harbor View.
Harbor Side.
The Harbor Room at, the Dreamland will be up there at 10 a.m. start. It is, has been publicized as an official meeting for us because we hopefully will have more than a quorum, so, it'll start with just announcing, committee members that are there, and that will suffice for our, establishing a quorum, et cetera. I really encourage everyone to come if you can be there. Lexi and Jericho have done a lot of work getting this ready and appreciate that. It will be basically, I'm not sure how many of the grant folks we have at this point. I don't believe we have everyone, but we have one or two people coming from many of the organizations, so I'll do an overview of what we are and what we do with all the appropriate thanking, people in attendance, et cetera, and then we will have a certificate that'll be awarded to each of the grants who are there, and we will get the ones to the people who aren't in attendance, and we will then have a group photograph of everyone. We've got a PowerPoint with photographs from the different programs going on, and rather than, we thought we would ask people to do a 5-minute or so presentation on what they're doing, but with 17 people, I was told that could be a little bit tiring. I don't want to necessarily say that, that's not the appropriate thing, but we'll do just a brief, 2 sentence of what they do. We'll be showing the photographs or whatever. Take a photograph, people getting a certificate, a group photograph, we've got refreshments, etc. But the main reason for doing this, is number one, to thank our not-for-profits, and also a community awareness that the town does support not-for-profits on the island. And as I said earlier, our information folks from the town did a lovely
Press release,
which is wonderful, was on Instagram, and we hope that we'll be getting more press on our grants, et cetera. And a lot of this grew out of town meeting last year, where we had folks get up and say, what is, giving money to Martha's Vineyard, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just, so we're trying to educate and also thank our community for supporting our not-for-profits. So, and I'll add in on this, Tara, has put together a 1-page basically brochure of the programs that we did award money to, and we'll have it for distribution tomorrow. And we will then look at this, and maybe we could look at it a little bit more next month to see how we would want to develop this further, et cetera. But thank you, Tara, for pulling that together, and we can send it out to the entire group and next communication also, and we can look at that to see if we want to expand it next month. All right. I know the idea was to, it came up that we were to do a table at the sustainable market, et cetera, et cetera. We're well into the end of the season there, and I know I had volunteered to be there for a date or so, but it's time is just getting away, but we are gonna distribute it tomorrow. And then I think we need to make a plan for next season to see what we do with it. All right, but thank you.
At 10 o'clock tomorrow.
10 a.m. Start at 10. We, there are refreshments from Lemon Press, and, what I would ask people there to, help to greet our, recipients, and, it's a good networking opportunity. And, I know that we'll have Lexi at a table doing name tags and,
I have a
So-
sign-in sheet too.
good sign-in sheet and all that. And then, I assume that the talk ceremony or whatever will be done by 11, and then we'll have another half hour of making sure the food gets eaten, et cetera, and we'll be on our way then. So thank you. New business. All right. With none, our next meeting date. Looking at a calendar here, so we're into October. I know that we jumped up and we did this on September 11th, which was a little bit earlier, but the timing was just perfect because with the grant releases, et cetera, it just, things fell into place nicely. So thank you for adjusting your schedule to be here today. So if we look at the month of October, I had October 23rd as the fourth Thursday. Does that work with everyone? Okay. There are. So we could do the 16th potentially.
If it's the week of the 16th, I will likely remote in.
Okay. I prefer not going to the 30th, just so, just by
16th is fine.
16th is fine.
I'll just be
Okay.
remoting in.
All right. Is everyone good for October 16th, Thursday?
I may have to remote in.
Okay.
I'm off island that day. I will try. Yeah.
Okay. It's wonderful to be able to do these meetings in a hybrid fashion. And definitely, look, today we've got probably one of our biggest, attendees, attendance, so October, yes, it's working. So October 16th at noon, our next meeting. And, that actually will be good because we'll be into, getting ready to do the, reviews, et cetera. All right. Without any other questions, the last thing is a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Okay, so Sarah, and then we've got Suzanne seconds, so by vote, Sue,
Aye.
Suzanne,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Tara,
Aye.
Deborah,
Aye.
Sarah,
I
myself, I. So thank you. Thank you all. Have a great day and hope to see everyone tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Everyone.